Hey YouTube, I'm just going to do a quick video here about the Blackmagic Pocket camera, and some might be asking why would I do that in 2016 when this camera has been out for years. And it's actually been a personal experience where I've been looking for reviews, looking for tips, looking for information, and a lot of this stuff is actually old or outdated and doesn't apply anymore. And so I'd like to do a 2016 version now that the firmware seems like it's kind of at its final phases and it has a lot of the features that people are looking for. So I'm going to go over a few of the thoughts that I have about it. The image. The image is sexy as hell. I've had a hard time trying to describe to some people who also shoot why I made this jump from my 60D to this, and the image quality, I just can barely tolerate my DSLR anymore. It's an okay B cam, but really, when I talk about the image, I'm not, yes, there's the 10-bit, there's the 12-bit, there's the RAW, but to put it into English, what's really nice is the fact that your image looks like how you shot it. That's the best way I can describe it. What your eye sees is what that camera sees, and if you grade it properly, it's really nice. I would also add that in terms of sharpness, DSLRs now just look like soft, mushy crap compared to what I get out of this camera. I've definitely put this in terms of sharpness with the FS100 that I regularly use as well. It may not be the most important thing, but this thing's really small. I mean, there's my thumb. I don't have really big hands, and this camera is very, very small. And it makes it really portable. It's actually made shooting a little more fun now. I've shot from everything from DSLRs to the FS100, and it's kind of nice to have a small form factor that you're able to just pack around in a small bag, especially if you have some small lenses. It's really small, and that's one of the features that I like about it. One of the things that I didn't hear the other reviews talked about, which was really weird, was the ProRes con. I mean, now, yes, I have a 8-core desktop computer, but now I'm actually able to edit on the road if I want with the ProRes files on my laptop. I have an i3 laptop, which is a dual core with some hyper threading, and now I can edit that on my laptop. So, I mean, that's got to be a really big pro for some people who think that they're going to need a huge monster computer. Another thing that I like that people really didn't point out is that because of the small sensor size, you can adapt every single lens on the planet to this thing. And for example, Fujijan has some really cheap C-mount lenses that go onto here, and you can get 25, 35, and 50 millimeter lenses for, I think, combined under $100. So those are just like a few of those. So you don't really have to worry about the speed booster and all that jazz. I have my no-name speed booster coming for my Tacumar lenses, which were adapted to EOS, and so I'll be able to have that. But it's nice to know that I can adapt a bunch of different lenses. I find that the Micro Four Thirds lenses are really cost prohibitive, and I think the cheapest lens I could find that has image stabilization was about $400, and so at that price I'd probably entertain just getting a Canon lens and adapting it with a cheap electronic adapter if I really needed that image stabilization part. And while there are many things that I like about the camera, there are going to be a few cons that people need to be aware of. No one ever really mentioned it on the videos that I saw, and it's not really a con, it's just that no one mentioned it. And that is that no one mentioned the native ISO issue, which means that you're going to have ND filters. At ISO 800, everything is just way too bright. And I have some ND 16s on the way for use. They seem to be at the right level that I'm going to need for outdoor shots, especially if I want a shallow depth of field. And I may even go slightly higher for those times that I'm going to need like an f1.4 aperture while shooting outdoors at an ISO of 800. Now, I don't know if it's me or the lenses or the Micro Four Thirds system, but it's, again, not a pro, not a con, but an observation I've made is that you really have to be bang on with your focusing. I mean, like, really meticulously bang on, using the focus peaking or double clicking the OK button, which allows you to punch in. Definitely a must. You want to make sure every shot you check your focus. It just doesn't seem to have the same kind of sloppy tolerance that I've had on my Canon 60D. So not a pro, not a con, but when your image is sharp and you're on your mark, it just looks sexy. And while those ProRes files are awesome, the reality is that yes, you need to buy some very expensive SD cards for your Blackmagic Pocket camera to be able to handle the files. But the reality is that those files are quite large and you're going to have to invest some hard drive space in order to compensate for the amount of files that you're going to have. On the flip side though, what I'm doing is I'm using the ProRes files for my editing process. And unless I am certain that that video footage is something that I'm going to use later down the road, like some generic B stock or of like rivers and trees and stuff, I just wind up converting it to H.264 and batch converting the whole lot. So that's what I do for archival purposes. But if I think that I'm going to use it, that's fine. So I have a 4 terabyte hard drive on the way to be able to store all my new footage. I wouldn't say it's really a pro or a con, but the testament to how precise this camera is, and that is that you need to be really meticulous about your color temperature. I have an app on my phone that I use for measuring color temperature, not exposure, just the color temperature. And by using that, it has made my life way easier and my images just turn out substantially better. Yes, the battery thing, but you know what? It's not as bad as people make it out to be. I've gone out to do talking head pieces and been able to shoot just fine with a couple of extra batteries in my pocket without having to worry about it. You just got to be conscious about turning off the camera. That's all. So, would I have bought the Blackmagic camera when it first came out? Hell no. It was missing so many features and it was so buggy. But now that the firmware has kind of gotten to its final revision, I think that this is the camera that if you're really serious about filmmaking and you've at least got to muck around with your iPhone and such, this is the camera I would buy over a DSLR. And there's a few reasons for that. One, DaVinci Resolve has come so far. When the Pocket camera first came out, Resolve was at version 9. Now it's at 12.5. It's a full-fledged editor. The color correction has become even more powerful. And it's a really serious tool. And especially if you're going to go anything further than the Blackmagic series, like a Red or Sony FS700, something like that, it's really going to prepare you for that. Like I said, the image that you see is the image that you get, which is really important. And, you know, some people might think I'm crazy for recommending this over a DSLR, but I would think that if you compare the image quality, it's going to be just vastly superior. But on top of that, the value of the camera will retain. I just recently bought this Blackmagic camera used, and I still had to buy it at basically what the new price was, minus taxes, and mine also came with extra batteries and the Panasonic 14mm lens that you saw. So it was a bit of a deal, but these cameras everywhere I've seen have retained their value. And that's just because they are so phenomenal. Will they hold their value over the next, 4 years? Maybe, maybe not. We'll have to see how things go. But definitely, it's an amazing camera, and it just takes a little bit of tweaking and just a little more meticulous care. And I think that you can get an image that will just blow you away every single time.